Hello, I'm LaShonda Sanders and welcome back to Black Book Stacks, which is my new YouTube channel. I'm home on the web where I talk all things books, mostly black books because those are the ones that interest me the most, but we'll see how things go. Let's see. I've been talking about the best sort of nonfiction black books that I read in 2019 that I thought were really amazing, and I wanted to especially include this next book, which has rightfully won all kinds of awards, which has been amazing. I was on Twitter when Sarah won the National Book Award in nonfiction for this beautiful book, and it is called The Yellow House by Sarah M. Broom, which is amazing. I don't know if you can see it really well, so let me see if I can adjust my little camera right quick. You see this in its full glory, which is just incredible. Speaking of glory, shout out to Gloria Deem, well-read black girl, part of the tribe. All right, so what to say about The Yellow House? So from the very first page of The Yellow House, first of all, let me stop. I'll back up. So I was assigned a review with the AV Club to write about The Yellow House, which was astonishing because I hadn't really heard of it before then. Sarah and I actually had been connected online without me knowing like her magnificence. Definitely incredible to me that we were connected without me knowing it. And when I read The Galley, maybe it was February, March of 2019. I was so incredibly excited about it because it's just this beautiful, elegiac, just structurally incredible book that tells the story of New Orleans kind of from the framework of thinking about a house. You know, it's built, I've heard Sarah talk about it really in conversation with the incredible Imani Perry, and talking with others just about thinking about the structure of the book really rigorously in order to kind of do justice to her hometown, and also to think about and work through memory, who owns a memory, who owns kind of a landscape. And you know, if you know anything about New Orleans, even if you've never been, it's sort of known, I think, in the popular imagination as this place of incredible debauchery, and you just kind of go there. It has like a year-round spring break vibe. It's the kind of place where you can just walk down Bourbon Street. You know, they have an open container lot, so you're absolutely able to just walk around with the beer, flip-flops if you're not worried about stepping in stuff. I wouldn't do it, but you know, it's that kind of place, you know, laissez-faire. Listen, I don't speak French, so you catch me out here trying to talk French, I'm really doing the most. So I won't, because I don't need to. So, but you know, it is a place of relaxation. And she talks about New Orleans East, which, you know, or New Orleans East, which is, you know, closer to how people who are from there would say it. And I think, you know, especially when you think about the Hurricane Katrina disaster, catastrophe, a major nadir of the American history and governmental response to New Orleans, what you have is, you know, sort of this story of codified neglect, this trajectory of essentially letting a place that is beloved, I think, in the subconscious, essentially, of America, be completely torn apart. And in the context of that, right, in the context of that larger sort of more problematic history, what you have is Sarah M. Broom's edification of a different narrative for New Orleans, right, which is that it is a place of quiet beauty that even if it is not necessarily noticed or seen by the tourists that frequent it or the tourist industry upon which it relies, it still has this deeply rich and amazing resilience. It has this incredibly complex and also simple at the same time, like simple in the best way, like simply elegant and deep history. And, you know, throughout the pages of the Yellow House, what you see is this sort of refusal for the author as the main narrator to allow these sort of more shallow stories of her hometown to essentially rule the discourse. You know, she decides that the discourse is not going to be, you know, we are always recovering. We are always recovering from struggle. You know, when we have Mardi Gras, it is basically so that we become a playground for others. Instead, the story of the Yellow House is really the story of her mother, Ivory May, her family. You know, she is the youngest of 12. And so it is actually this revision of the American story, actually, not just in New Orleans, but for all, I think, of the African diaspora. It's part of what makes it so resonant for me, is that it is a story that is not so much about pain or trauma as it is navigating the American experience across the diaspora, because there is a point in Sarah's story where she goes to Africa. She spends time in Harlem, and which I think is where she lives part of the time. So there's like Harlem, New Orleans, Africa. There are all these sort of sites of the Black imagination that she explores, but she's also at the same time exploring this intimate story of this yellow house, the house that she grew up in, that essentially is destroyed. Not to give away any part of the book. I don't feel like that would be a spoiler, but if it is, sorry. It's worth reading regardless of whether or not you think that's a spoiler, because it's really just about how you recover memories, how you navigate your ownership of a place. You know, who owns New Orleans? Who owns the memory of what New Orleans was before Hurricane Katrina, and since, and now, and in the future? You know, like, it's such a beautiful idea. It's such an incredibly successful framework for a memoir. And I think also because for me, it was so incredible to read that thought or that feeling about ownership, especially like when you think about the context of actually Black home ownership, right? Like a lot of us have a very low or negative generational wealth because of outdated and problematic real estate laws. You know, there's just like an investigation in Newsday about racist or you know, problematic real estate practices on Long Island specifically, and they had audio and video of, you know, lenders essentially, or, you know, real estate agents basically like steering Black people into, you know, quote unquote bad neighborhoods where it was already predominantly people of color, and steering white people into, you know, more prominent neighborhoods, right? So, you know, I think that redlining and other like, you know, problematic real estate practices, systemically racist practices have barred home ownership, you know, for a lot of Black Americans, even at a time when home ownership is actually not even considered a part of the American dream for like maybe younger generations, but certainly, you know, for her mother's generation, for her generation, for my generation, you know, we were always kind of sold this narrative that in order for you to be truly successful in America, you needed to have a home, and if you didn't have a home, that was, you were falling short, basically, of achieving the American dream. So, yeah, anyway, that makes me think a lot of It Was All a Dream by Raniqua Allen, which came out last year, at the beginning of the year, maybe beginning of 2018 actually. So anyway, all these things to say that, you know, the language is incredibly beautiful and haunting. It is also at the same time incredibly empowering to read. You can hear the sort of powerful cadence of Sarah in the pages. So the book is worth reading for that alone. It's also basically like a clinic in how to redefine the genre. And if that sounds like an overstatement, all you need to do is Google The Yellow House and see all of the different lists that it's landed on, and the many accolades that it's received, which are all like incredibly well deserved because it's that beautiful of a book. So for any of your friends who are fans of memoir, who love New Orleans, who love thinking about how you tell a unique story of a Black family from the South, from New Orleans, how you do that in a way that is restorative, that offers dignity, this is a wonderful, wonderful first step. You can buy it wherever books are sold. I'm sure that it came out in August of 2019, so I'm sure that you'll be able to find it wherever books are sold, and I'm sure that the paperback will be out soon enough. Apologies for the sirens. And yeah, I highly encourage you to pick it up. I'll put my review in the link in the description box below, so you can find it there as well. And yeah, I appreciate you taking the time to listen to my thoughts on The Yellow House. Feel free to pick it up. Again, thanks for your attention and your time. I love, like, shares, and subscribes, and looking forward to seeing you again soon.